We're cracking open Genesis 35 today, and let me tell you, this chapter is a roller coaster. We're talking about Jacob going back to his roots, some serious family drama, and, oh yeah, face-to-face encounters with God.
Talk about intense.
Divine encounters, a wife's tragic death, and the foundation of the entire nation of Israel, all packed into these verses. Buckle up, because we're about to uncover what this means for Jacob.
And maybe for us too.
Who knows, right? Maybe some lessons for us along the way. Okay, so it all kicks off with God telling Jacob to head back to Bethel. Remember that spot where he had that wild dream about the ladder to heaven?
While he was running for his life from his brother Esau.
Exactly. That was like a turning point for him, his first real encounter with God.
And now God's calling him back. But it's not just about going back to a physical location, is it? It's deeper.
You're right. It's more about going back to the core of his faith, reconnecting with who he really is.
A spiritual homecoming, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But hold on, before they even set foot in Bethel, there's this whole purification ritual.
Oh yeah, Jacob tells his family to ditch all those foreign gods, get cleaned up, change their clothes. It's like a total spiritual makeover.
Shedding the old self, literally and figuratively. Gotta wonder what those foreign gods represent, though.
Idols, distractions, things that were getting in the way of their relationship with God.
Probably. It's even more powerful when they actually bury those gods under an oak tree.
Whoa, talk about a visual. You think that shows how serious they were about this fresh start with God?
Absolutely. It's like burying the past, making a clean break. Actually, sometimes we need to do that too. Let go of things that are holding us back.
What idols are we clinging to that we need to bury?
Good question. We all have them in one form or another. But then, get this, to really emphasize their commitment, the terror of God falls on the surrounding towns.
Like a shield, right. It says no one dared to mess with Jacob and his crew.
Talk about divine protection. You can feel that sense of reverence, like God is clearing a path for them.
It's almost suspenseful. Okay, so they make it to Bethel safe and sound. Jacob wastes no time, builds an altar, and names it El Bethel, God of Bethel. That's a statement, right?
More than a statement, it's like he's renewing his covenant with God. Saying, remember that promise we made back then? I'm still here, God, and I'm all in.
It's powerful. It makes you think about how we express our commitment to God today. Maybe we need to build some altars of our own, figuratively speaking, of course.
What would your altar look like? What would it symbolize?
That's a good one. We'll have to ponder that. But amidst all this intensity, there's a moment of pause. Deborah, Rebecca's nurse, dies and is buried nearby.
It's poignant, isn't it? This woman who'd been with the family through thick and thin, she's gone now.
It makes you realize how quickly things change. Life is precious every moment.
It really is. And then, just when you think you're settling into this reflective mood, boom, God shows up again.
And this time, it's not just a visit. It's a life-changing encounter. God not only reaffirms those promises he made to Abraham and Isaac,
the whole nation, land, blessings thing. But he gives Jacob a new name.
He does. It's not just any name change either. This is an identity shift. He's no longer Jacob, the deceiver, the wrestler.
He's Israel now.
Right.
Which, means he struggles with God.
Wow. His name now reflects his entire journey, the struggles, the victories, his unwavering faith. But Jacob takes it seriously. He builds a pillar, pours out a drink offering, solidifying his renewed commitment to God. Like, okay, I'm ready for whatever's next, God. I'm ready to be Israel. And then tragedy strikes. Rachel goes into labor, and, well, the text makes it clear it wasn't an easy one. Great difficulty, it says. You can almost feel the tension, the fear mixed with hope.
Those were tough times. Childbirth was a risky business back then.
And then the unthinkable happens. Rachel dies giving birth to her son. It's a devastating loss, a moment of grief that cuts through all the joy and promise we saw earlier.
It's a reminder that life can be unpredictable. Even amidst blessings, there can be heartbreak.
It's true. But even in her final moments, Rachel names her son Benoni, son of my sorrow. So heartbreaking.
But then Jacob steps in, maybe trying to find some light in the darkness. He renames the boy Benjamin, son of my right hand.
It's a powerful act of defiance against despair, choosing to see hope in the face of loss, to believe that even in death, life continues.
What do you make of that choice? Have you ever had to find a hope in the face of immense loss?
It's a question we all grapple with at some point, I think, but we'll have to save that conversation for another time. We left off with Jacob, deep in grief over Rachel's death. It's heavy stuff, but the story doesn't stop there. Life, in Jacob's journey, it keeps going.
Yeah, and it's interesting how the whole narrative kind of shifts at this point. We've been focused on Jacob, his personal stuff, his feelings, his wrestling. But now it's like the story zooms out.
It does. We get this wider view, like seeing the foundation of a whole nation being built.
Right, and right after all that emotional intensity, we get this list of Jacob's 12 sons. It seems like a simple thing, just a list of names.
But when you think about it, it's a really big deal. Each son, he represents a different branch of the family tree, a different tribe that'll shape the future of Israel.
Totally. We're getting a peek at the bigger picture here. It's not just names on a list. These are like the patriarchs. Their stories, their descendants. It all gets woven into Israel's history.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing to realize how much impact just that one verse has. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, we know these names. They represent actual places, characteristics, even like destinies within the nation of Israel.
It's like watching the very beginning, the seeds of history being planted.
It is. And remember, two of those names are Joseph and Benjamin, Rachel's sons. It makes you think, how did their mom's legacy, her tragic death, shape them?
Right. We know their stories become major parts of Israel's narrative.
It's almost like echoes of her life, of her love, are carried on in their journeys. But the chapter, it moves on pretty quickly. We get another big transition. Isaac, Jacob's father, he dies at 180 years old.
Wow. That's a long life. Like, his whole life is this bridge between the past and the future, a connection to those generations that came before. And then his death, it's like passing the torch, giving that patriarchal responsibility over to Jacob.
It does feel like closure, doesn't it? One era ending, another one starting. Now it's Jacob's time to be the leader. He's got to carry the weight of those covenant promises.
Exactly. Remember those promises God made to Abraham and to Isaac? Now they land on Jacob. It's his job to guide his family, to shape them into the nation that God intended them to be.
That's a lot of pressure. But it also shows how much God trusted him. Despite, Jacob's flaws, his past mistakes, God saw something in him, a potential for greatness.
And that's a powerful message for us too, isn't it? God doesn't go for perfect people. He goes for those who are willing to wrestle with him, to grow, to be transformed by his grace. Like, he can use our imperfections, even our struggles, and make something amazing out of them.
So if we kind of zoom out, look at the whole chapter, what do you see? What ties it all together?
Well, we see that theme of returning to your roots, both physically, like going back to a place, and spiritually, like going back to the source of your faith. Jacob's journey to Bethel, it wasn't just about the location. It was about reconnecting with those promises that define who he is.
And there's this focus on names, on how they reflect our identity, our purpose. Jacob becoming Israel, it shows a change in his character, a new understanding of his relationship with God.
For sure. And then we can't forget those covenants, those agreements between God and humanity, the promises that were made to Abraham and Isaac, they get passed on to Jacob. It shows how God's plan continues through generations.
Like a legacy, a thread of faith that connects everything together. But there's also this bittersweet part, this acknowledgement of how life goes in cycles, loss and new beginnings. Like Rachel's death, it's a harsh reminder that life is fragile, but it's also what pushes Jacob to be resilient, to find hope when he's surrounded by grief.
It's like this complicated mix of emotions and events, right?
Yeah.
But even through the tragedy, you can sense a purpose. Like God's hand is guiding Jacob, shaping him to be the leader he was meant to be.
The father of a nation. But there's one more piece to look at. It's kind of easy to miss, but it adds a whole other dimension to Jacob's story.
Yeah, it's tucked away in verse 22, almost like a little secret hidden in the text. But it shows that this family, even though they're growing and being blessed, they've got some issues under the surface, challenges ahead.
You're talking about Reuben, right? Jacob's firstborn son, and what happens with Bilhah, his father's concubine. It's a little shocking, and it makes you wonder why it's even mentioned.
Right. The text doesn't spend a lot of time on it, doesn't really say like whether Reuben was right or wrong, but it does say that Israel heard of it. It's almost like this seed of trouble is planted, a hint that things might get messy.
It's interesting. Reuben, as the firstborn, he should have inherited a lot. Status, authority, But this thing that happens, and some other stuff later in Genesis, it seems like he loses some of that. Loses his standing in the family.
It's like his actions, they have ripple effects, not just for him, but for his descendants too. Like the whole tribe of Reuben, they never really become as powerful as some of the other tribes.
Makes you think, about the choices we make and how they affect not just us, but generations to come. The weight of it all.
It's true. It reminds us that even though God has a plan, our choices still matter. They have a part to play in how the story unfolds. And sometimes those choices, well, they lead to things we never expected.
Yeah, maybe even some tragic stuff. It makes the Bible feel more real, doesn't it? It's not just a happy story of blessings and victories. It's about people, real people dealing with complicated feelings, making tough decisions, and facing the consequences.
It's like a reflection of our own lives in a lot of ways. We all make choices that impact our families, the people around us, even people we'll never meet. It's a lot to think about. It makes you realize how important it is to be wise, to think about what our actions might lead to down the line.
So, as we finish up this deep dive into Genesis 35, what are some of the main things you hope people take away from it? What does Jacob's story teach us about faith, about family, about just being human?
I think it shows us that faith, it's not just about sitting back and believing. It's about getting involved with God, wrestling with doubts, facing tough truths, and choosing to trust Him even when things don't make sense.
And family, right. It's a source of love and support, but it can also be full of conflict and pain. Relationships are complicated, and the choices we make, they have a huge impact.
But at its core, it's a story of hope. Jacob, with all his flaws and failures, he's chosen by God to carry on those promises. He changes from a deceiver into a leader, someone who sets the stage for an entire nation. That transformation, that journey of growth, it gives us hope for our own journeys.
It shows us that God can use anyone, no matter what we've done in the past, no matter what we're struggling with now. He sees our potential even when we don't. And He's there with us through good times and bad, shaping us into the people He created us to be.
So as you think about Jacob's story, what sticks with you? What parts are challenging?
Yeah.
How can his journey inspire you to embrace your own purpose, to wrestle with your own faith, to figure out those complicated family relationships?
Thanks for being with us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new about Genesis 35 and maybe even found some connections to your own life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the Word.